Hello, good morning. This is ET Now and you're watching Market Cafe with me, Vinny Motiwala, along with me, Shreyansi Singh as well. Shreyansi, very good morning to you as well and happy Friday. Finally, Friday is here. But seems like, is it going to be a happy Friday for the D Street? Yesterday, we did manage to close on a very strong footed despite the weakness that we saw in the global markets.
Absolutely.
India managed to see a strong gain, but what is the handover today from the US market?
No, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a very happy Friday if you go purely by the handover that we're seeing from the international markets. So you do have the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq that declined for their fourth and fifth straight negative session. So this is not a very good footing that they've started the year on, if you see the backdrop that this is all placed against as well. And the Dow closed marginally higher on the day, but is still down for the week. In fact, when you look at the three major averages, they're also all on track to break 9-week winning streaks. You've got the Nasdaq Composite that is suffering the biggest loss for the week at 3.3%. Now, this is not the move that we expected when we got into this year. One factor weighing on the market right now is the cooling off of large cap tech stocks, the likes of Apple, which have been, this particular stock in fact, has been downgraded by 2 research firms this week. And that is definitely something that the market is taking note of. So that largely is the handover coming in from the international market.
That's a handover from the international market, but obviously we're keeping a close eye on the crude prices as well because of the issues that are happening in the Red Sea. So first, let me take you all through what happened overnight for the crude oil prices. Now, oil prices actually settled lower yesterday. Very choppy trading session was at least what was seen for the crude oil prices. As of now, early morning trade, Asia trade, when you're seeing the opening coming in, crude oil prices have opened with a slightly positive bias. As of now, Brent crude oil prices is up 0.3% on trade around the $77.8 per barrel mark. WTI crude oil at $72.5 per barrel mark. So yes, that's how crude oil prices are looking at. Obviously, in terms of, we did have the US data that came in terms of the fuel inventory build-ups that they've seen coming in. So that is a factor that impacted the crude oil prices yesterday as well. So lower fuel demand, large inventory increases in the US is some data point that you're seeing, which impacted the crude oil prices. So yes, keeping an eye out on that one. Other than that, obviously, let's not forget that, we are seeing issues coming in the Maersk side, while meanwhile, Maersk has actually resoluted 4 out of the 5 of its container vessels towards the Suez Canal. The move comes after that long haul around Africa to avoid risk of the attacks. Now, repeated attacks from the Houthi militants has forced a slew of companies to take drastic steps to avoid disruption. However, concerns are now flaring up on the fresh bout of inflation amid the soaring shipping rates as well. We spoke about that yesterday as well. Freight rates are going higher because of this issue. So that is another factor that we should keep an eye out on other than the oil prices as well, Shreyansi.
Absolutely. And one other factor that we should look at is the weekly jobless claims data. Now, the number of Americans filing for jobless benefits dropped to a 2-month low. Data now pointing towards the underlying strength in the labor market as demand eases. Weekly jobless claims have declined by 18,000. The report indicated that the number of people on unemployment rolls remained elevated in December. And this is amid expectations that the Fed will begin cutting its rate cutting spree in March.
Some more global updates, and this is on US microchip tech investment. In a bid to amp up the semiconductor production in the country, US is planning to award $162 million to microchip technology in government grants. The fund will allow microchip to triple production of semiconductor chips and microcontroller units at 2 US factories.
Well, keeping it with tech then, OpenAI has said that they are in talks with several publishers to strike deals to license articles amid efforts made by the startup to train its artificial intelligence models. Now, the said deals are key to company's future as it's balancing the need for updated, accurate data to build its models with growing scrutiny around data sources.
And a lot of shocking details that have now been emerging in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. Names of acquaintances and associates of the wealthy financier were released in the set of court documents. Documents say that little about actions taken by individuals outside Epstein. Now, while celebrities like Bruce Willis, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Blanchett, Kevin Spacey are also mentioned in the records, they have not been accused of helping Epstein in any capacity. Prince Andrew was also one of the names referenced in the documents as well. So a lot of updates that are coming in from the documents that are released in the Jeffrey Epstein case. That's a matter on the global front that one is keeping an eye out on.
Absolutely, and with this, we're timed out on this segment, but we'll take a look at how the Asian markets fared on the other side. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's also take a look at the Asian markets. Asian markets struggled to make headway, and this is after falling mostly for the first 2 trading days of the new year. Now, investors will be watching out for Southeast Asia's economic data due later in the day, as well as inflation numbers from Thailand, Philippines, as well as retail sales data from Singapore. So let's take a look at ASX 200. Not doing all that much, 0.1% up. When you look at Kospi also, similar levels coming in, but on the flip side, the Kospi is down about 0.1%. When you look at Shanghai as well, down about 0.1% thereabout. Not decidedly doing all of that much. And when you look at Nikkei as well, up about 0.4%. So this is largely the handover coming in from the Asian markets. Now, when you look at the GIFT Nifty, you're looking at a gap down open of about like 0.2% thereabout. And you did see the Nifty closing in at that 21,658 level. So let's see how this sort of failing to make headway is read by our markets back home as well.
Absolutely, we're surely keeping an eye out on that. But do not forget, we have a very exciting lineup for you all on the market starting at 8 a.m. and 9:20 a.m. Firstly, we have Punita Kumar Sinha, who will be talking about the markets, the outlook for 2024. Let's move on and talk about realty, because that's been the top sectorial gainer for a while, and YTD performance has been strong. So to talk about that, we're joined by Pankaj Kumar, Vice President at Fundamental Research at Kotak Securities at 9:30 a.m. Talking about the banking sector, the updates that have come in from Q3 FY24, what's the outlook there, what should we be expecting? 9:40 a.m. Nitin Agarwal, head of BFSI Institutional Equities at Motilal Oswal Financial Services, joining in with us at 9:40. 9:50 a.m. we have Sachin Agarwal, CMD at PTC Industries, talking about us to the outlook for the company going forward as well. Consumption trends, important one. Are we seeing a rural recovery coming back? What more is required to push the recovery in the rural market? Sunil Tuggal, former CEO at Dabur, joining in with us at 10 a.m. And at 10:20 a.m. we have Nishant Arya, Vice Chairman and MD at JBM Group, talking about the roadmap for the company going forward. But on that note, let's go across and hear in the news for the hearing impaired.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's take a look at some news and updates coming in then. Maharashtra Cabinet has cleared the proposal of MMRDA regarding the new Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link toll. Now, MMRDA had initially fixed the toll of Rs 500, but the Cabinet approved toll of 250 rupees for single journey. In fact, my colleague Aishwarya Patil is standing by with more details. Aishwarya?
Well, the wait is finally over. MTHL Bridge will finally be inaugurated on the 12th of January as Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting the city. It is also said and expected that this particular bridge, which is India's longest sea bridge, will be named as Atal Bihari Vajpayee Shivri Nava Sheva Atal Setu Bridge. Now, as far as the recent announcement is concerned, toll charges was something of great concern for most civilians, and in fact, in the meeting this afternoon of Maharashtra Cabinet, Minister Deepak Kesarkar in fact said that the charges for four-wheelers, and most civilians would be happy to hear this, for a single journey is 250 rupees for the Trans Harbour Bridge. Now, this in fact is the cheapest per kilometer toll across the country, is what the minister has been claiming. As far as other vehicles are concerned, this sea bridge, which is 22 kilometers long and can accommodate almost 70,000 vehicles in a single trip, this will also have and give access to larger vehicles or heavy vehicles such as trucks as well as buses. There will also be public transport, but the vehicles which will not be allowed is two-wheelers and auto rickshaws, of course.
Thank you so much for that update, Aishwarya. But let's move on. And India is poised to evolve into a developed economy over the next 30 to 40 years with a strategic government initiative and a surge in private sector capital expenditure, says Kumar Mangalam Birla. Listen in to the excerpt of that conversation.
We all know that the statistics show that India is well on its way to become a developed economy in the next 30, 40 years, which I think is saying a lot. I also believe that the government is doing all the right things, whether it's building infrastructure, digital properties that are public facing to make this happen. So I think capex from the private sector is also picking up on different fronts. And I think that along with government spend on public infrastructure is potentially a very potent combination.
Well, that's the word coming in from Kumar Mangalam Birla. But moving away from that then, cement manufacturing company Grasim Industries has been in the spotlight and they're set to raise 4,000 crore rupees via a rights issue. Anurag Joshi has more on this. Anurag?
Grasim Industries is planning to raise 4,000 crore rupees via a rights issue. Grasim's board, which met today, has approved the terms of the rights issue, and the company is planning to issue 2.2 crore shares in the planned equity issue. Now, the rights issue is open from Jan 17 to 29, and the entitlement ratio is 6 equity shares for every 179 shares held in the company. The company in the past had flagged that it plans to use the proceeds of the rights issue for its chemicals and the upcoming the capex requirements of the paints and the chemical business, and to repay the borrowings. Meanwhile, speculation had also been rife that Grasim may use part of the proceeds from the rights issue to fund a planned capital infusion into Vodafone Idea, in which Grasim's promoter Aditya Vikram Birla Group owns about 18% equity stake. On this matter, there has been no clarity so far from Grasim or from Aditya Vikram Birla Group. And today, ET Now had asked Aditya Vikram Birla Group Chairman Kumar Mangalam Birla about the plans for the capital infusion into Vodafone Idea, and he did not offer any comments on the matter.
And let's move on and talk about the power sector, because the power regulator CERC has issued a draft regulation for new tariffs, which will be applicable from April this year for the next 5 years and will be applicable on cost plus regulation. Now, analysts believe that the new norms will not have any impact on hydro projects, with regulated ROE for the thermal power unchanged at 15.5% and unchanged for transmission projects commissioned before April 2024. While NTPC could see an upside risk of 1 to 3% on earnings, Power Grid could actually see a downside risk of 1 to 2%, and this is according to Jefferies. They have remained quite positive overall on the sector, with NTPC, JSW Energy and Power Grid making the cut as their top pick as well.
Absolutely. So that's about the power sector that's been really charged up. But in fact, ethanol stocks are also in focus on account of those the possibility of those sweet gains coming in on account of that additional incentive for grain ethanol. So you've got the likes of BCL Industries, Global Spirits, Gulshan Polyols, Triveni Engineering, Balrampur Chini. These counters will remain in focus. And the news flow is that OMC is offering incentive. So when you see the additional incentive, that is to the tune of about 6 rupees per litre. The new price is coming in at about 71.86 rupees per litre, which is an uptick from the earlier price of about 66.07 rupees per litre. And this is according to channel checks. But when you look at this boost for grain ethanol, This new prices will be effective from today, so do keep an eye on all of those counters that I mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. This is just in simple terms. It means whoever was making maize-based ethanol, that is what they will be getting benefits. And those companies like Shreyanshi mentioned, also BCL Industries, Global Spirits, Gulshan Polys. So this is a benefit for them in terms of the regulation that has come in on that front. So anyone who is making those wheat-based ethanol is going to be benefiting from that. But let's move on, and with shifting gears to the aviation space specifically now, with the interest from SpiceJet and two others, debt resolution of Force Airlines has gained fresh hopes. Now, ET now has learned from sources that lenders may vote for inviting fresh expression of interest for the defunct airline. Ankur Mishra is going to be joining in with us to give us more details on this. Ankur, what's happening on this expression of interest front? Any interest that is building in? What are your sources telling you in terms of this?
Extension of Go First resolution deadline, and now this has happened after 3 new suitors had emerged for taking over Go First. Remember, ET now had earlier reported that lenders were conducting the process of casting votes, and this had happened 2 weeks back. Now we understand the voting is going to end on 6th of the current month, and after that the voting results will be declared. But sources close to the matter has informed us that the voting is likely to be in favor of extension of resolution. Remember, all three interested parties have not submitted any expression of interest yet, and a formal process is yet to be started, and that will be done after creditors give approval for extension of deadline, and we may see that there might be renewed interest for taking over Go First.
Well, thanks, Ankur, for that update. ET Now and ET Now Swadesh, in line with helping Indians rise with India, have partnered with Sundaram Mutual to launch Nivesh Day, a groundbreaking campaign to help viewers build their personal finance portfolios through regular and disciplined investing. Nivesh Day is being celebrated on the 5th of every month, which is today. Join ET Now Swadesh, as well as Sundaram Mutual to learn how you can build your financial future with an SIP in mutual funds.
Back, and you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Let's talk about some of the potential returns that we could see coming in as well. And obviously, despite low to negative returns potential, there are several stocks that analysts are quite bullish on. Now, which are these stocks? What is the target price? What is an upgrade that we could be expecting? Could we see an upgrade given that earnings season is around the corner? Or is the run-up actually over for these stocks? Let's go across to Sharad, who's joining in with us to give us more insights on that. Which are the stocks on this list as well? Sharad?
Well, it's a very interesting take we have taken from Bloomberg. Out of a total universe of roughly 172 stocks, we have narrowed it down to almost the stocks with having a negative return potential of more than 20%. Only 3 stocks are there, while this range goes from 0 to minus 20% for 92 stocks and 0 to 10%, which could see a little revenue potential coming from 77 odd stocks. Now, importantly, what we have got in this research is that the analyst take, which is there on the buy side, which is total analyst take, which is there, which is on the majority side, those are the stocks which we have taken. Either these stocks have actually run up, or they might actually see a strong upgrade coming in the target prices going ahead. So which are these 10 standout stocks which should be in focus? Of course, in the first list, we're having macro credit developers, Bharat Dynamics and Trend. Of course, the potential is in negative, but if you look at the percentage of buy calls, that is on the higher side. Also moving on, the new set of companies coming in. We are having Deepak Nitrite, Gland Pharma, NMDC also making it to the list. And also from the real estate pack, we are having Prestige Estate Projects, and all the real estate stocks are buzzing in trade also today. We also have Orient Cement, Gujarat Fluoro, and lastly Nalco making up to the list.
Well, absolutely, Sharad. Thank you so much for that roundup. But realty stocks have been in the spotlight. There was a bright green on that particular sector yesterday, led by Sobha, which zoomed 20%. Imagine making a whole year's worth of money in a single day. We spoke to Gulam Zia, Senior Executive Director, Knight Frank India, and Saugata Bhattacharya, Independent Economist. Here's what we got.
The bounce back in the stock exchange of late, you have to also look at the pent-up demand of those years, at least 6-7 years. People were holding back their wealth. either putting up in stock exchanges or somewhere else and making it grow. And that money is today available. And that's something which is coming into residential market. That's one part. The second you asked me to talk about is the commercial real estate. I think we already heard about it, that global capability centers are essentially the reason behind it. But the shift, what used to happen in India was essentially driven by IT, ITS, BPO, etc. At that time, which was pretty much the lower end of it. It started with call centers. But over a period of time, it has actually grown much higher. So today's your capabilities, your capacities, your resources are of much higher an end. And that's where actually most of the financial sector, the big banks and many of the global companies are looking at doing insourcing. So insourcing is the mantra, and global capability centers of much higher order of research is what is happening.
In one part that is contributing to the current demand is the growth in home loans that you're seeing. Of course, from the higher end of the market, I mean, the higher interest rates probably do not matter that much. Which is a good explanation for the sluggish demand in the lower end of the housing markets. Yeah, but the middle and the upper end of the markets, particularly the upper end, are more or less are willing to absorb the higher interest rates. So the home loans that are being sought from banks is also another factor that is driving in demand for the higher end loans.
Okay, let's move on, and we do have some strategy notes that have come in this morning from Nomura as well as CLSA, and let's keep an eye out on that. Now, firstly, in terms of Nomura, they are highlighting the Nifty target for 2024 end. They are expecting to come in at around 24,000. I believe 24,260 is what they're targeting at. Other than that, they expect 12% returns in terms of 2024. Short-term correction on a buying opportunity is what they are highlighting. So yes, obviously we've seen that market being inflated right now, right? We've seen a run-up coming in. So what they're highlighting is that when you see a bit of a correction, it's a market where you will see correction. You should look at buying into that as well. Now, fair value range, what they believe is at around 18 to 21%. Selective defense valuations is something that has run up, but they're overweight on some of these sectors like financials, healthcare, consumer staples is what they're looking at. Infra, cement, power, coal, oil and gas, and telecom. Underweight, they do not like the discretionary spends, capital goods. Defense also, like they mentioned before, run-up has been seen already in those defense names that have come in. Metals, internet and IT still, they're not expecting anything exciting on that front. So let's keep an eye out on that one. Now, moving on, we have CLSA India's strategy note that has come in as well. They have said that the stretch starting point may be something that will weigh on this year, the returns of this year, especially in the beginning of the year. Maybe we could see a bit of a weighing on pressure on that as well. Equity pricing is a perfect US soft landing. In a perfect US soft landing is something they're watching out for. Disappointment in terms of growth or inflation is something that will hurt the stock. So any disappointment on that front, then we could see a bit of a subduedness that could come in the markets. Let's talk about some of the top picks or something that CLSA likes and mega caps. They're looking at sectors like banks, insurance, as well as energy. CLSA is underweight on consumer and IT. And overall, in terms of the CLSA's India strategy, they would like banks, L&T, Airtel, to the contribution of Nifty EPS growth is what they believe would be there.
Absolutely. So that's about CLSA. But let's also track some model portfolio strategies. In fact, Axis Capital and Jefferies have made few changes to their portfolios. Gaurav is standing by with that update. Gaurav?
Right. So first let's talk about Axis Cap strategy. So they have made some changes in their model portfolio, and if we talk about some of the removals or some of the replacements, so first let's start with ABB. Now they have removed ABB and now they have increased the weights in Tata Power instead of that. And on the next hand, they have replaced the Federal Bank with the Kotak Bank. They have also replaced Indraprastha with JSW Energy. At the same time, they have booked gains in Varun Beverages and Bajaj Autos, and to add up to the weights, they have increased the weights on ITC and Bharat Forge. So these are a few changes that they have made in their model portfolio. Let's also talk about Jefferies. Now through the report Greed and Fear, they have said that they have made some changes in the India long only portfolio, and the changes are like they have replaced ONGC with Coal India, and at the same time they have also removed Bajaj Finance and have increased weights in SBI and Adani Ports almost by 1% and 2% respectively. So these are some major changes made by the brokerages in their model portfolios.
Okay, Gaurav, thank you so much for that update this morning. Let's move on, talk about a couple of initiation coverages that have come in from UBS. One is from the defense sector. We have HAL, where they have initiated a buy and a target price of 3,600 rupees per share. They believe that the credible defense compounder is in the making for HAL. Revenue to rise at a 16% CAGR is what they are highlighting for HAL. Other than that, they are also highlighting that the company could actually start benefiting in terms from the $60 billion of more aircraft defense orders from now till FY28 is what they're expecting. Own design manufacturing by HAL is something that will be driving the double-digit growth in terms of EPS CAGR and 20% return on equity as well. So they believe that the order book is set to triple to 2.4 trillion by FY26. So that's interesting take coming in on the defense name HAL from UBS. But CG Power is another stock they've initiated coverage on with a target price of 580 rupees per share. They believe that this candidate is the best in terms of the sector earnings CAGR that they could expect. A 21% CAGR growth over FY23 to FY26 is what they're expecting. And they believe CG Power is actually quite well positioned for a multi-year capacity ramp up, and reviving up in terms of the long-term scale and growth is what is expected from CG Power as well. So yes, two initiation notes coming in from UBS, HAL and CG Power. Keep an eye out on both these stocks. We could see a run-up coming in here today.
Absolutely. So that's about HAL as well as CG Power. But what kind of a futures and options roundup is shaping up this morning? Ansh, what are you seeing on the charts?
Right. So if you'll see the Nifty chart, actually Nifty snapped two session losing streak, but despite of the positivity, it closed within its previous session's range. So there was no material direction in no material action in any particular direction. Also, it also closed between the 21,500 to 21,800 consolidation for 7th session. Now, if we talk about FNO segment, then in futures, open interest went down by around 1.8%. So here we are seeing short covering, which is a positive sign. Whereas on option front, we are seeing very active call buying at 22,000 strike price. This indicates that traders are expecting Nifty to touch around this level by weekly expiry, which is like next week Thursday. Whereas on downside, we are seeing very active put writing at 21,500, indicating strong support around this level. Let's have a quick view on Nifty Bank as well. Nifty Bank, if you see the chart, it closed at the upper range of the consolidation. Now it needs to come out decisively to give some particular direction actually. Whereas on in futures, open interest went up by around 2.4%, indicating long build-up, again a positive sign. Whereas on option front, we are seeing very active call buying at 49,000 strike price. So traders are very optimistic of Nifty Bank touching this level by next week's expiry. Whereas on downside, we are seeing very active put writing at 48,000 psychological mark, indicating strong support around this level. Let's talk about FIS2. In index futures, they added 377 longs. They covered 1,100 shorts. So net to net, we are seeing a net addition of around 1,500 contracts on upside. Due to this, the total long position has also inched higher from 65.6 to 66%. And this has been hovering between 65 to 69%, which is a neutral stance.
Okay, Ansh, thank you so much for that. But don't go anywhere because you have a whole list of stocks that will be in focus as well today. What is the list of stocks? What should one keep on their radar?
Yes, so Lupin will be the first stock in focus for today's trading session, as company has received tentative approval from US FDA for the company's new drug application for dapagliflozin and saxagliptin tablets. Apart from this, Ultratech Cement will also be in focus, as company has issued a corporate guarantee of $147 million in favor of Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation of a Singapore branch for credit facility availed by its wholly owned subsidiary in UAE. Shakti Pumps will also be in focus, as company has received 9th patent for a solar floor mill from the government of India. Transformers and rectifiers has successfully completed the most stringent dynamic short circuit test. So even this stock will be in focus. And Jupiter Wagon is also in focus, as the company has entered into a contract with the Government of Republic of India, which is Ministry of Defence, for manufacture and supply of 697 number of boogie open military wagons for a contract value of around 473 crores. Lastly, Coforge will be in focus, as Mr. Ajay Kalra, CFO of the company, has relinquished the position, and Mr. Saurabh Goyal has been appointed as the CFO of the company with effect from 5th Jan. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on all of those counters that you mentioned, Ansh. Thank you so much for that roundup. But we also caught up with Rajat Rajkaria, who's the Managing Director and CEO, Institutional Equities at Motilal Oswal Financial Services. And he talks about the sectors as well as the stocks that he's bullish on, especially touches upon the growth trajectory that we've seen in the PSU sector. Listen in.
At the beginning of this year, 2023, right, I would think that PSUs generally as a theme were starting to, make some buzz. You had defense, you had budget, you had government speeches, you had many indications of railway capex, defense budgets, EMS, renewables coming up, right? So you could have tried to take a stock, buy, sell 4 times in its journey of being 3x, right? If you would have bought a stock at the beginning of that conviction and rode through that entire rally, which is still not over, which is still going to continue for the next few years, right? You could have possibly captured the entire 3x, 5x, right? If you do buy, sell because sometime valuation looks high, then the story becomes better. I would think you would capture less than half of the return that your conviction would have delivered it to you. I think the same thing holds true for suppose state-owned banks, right? How many times we have seen 0.5 pe kharido or 1 time pe bech do, right? I don't think we have seen balance sheets and growth orbit better than this in the last 20 years of these banks. So why should they be constrained by a historical valuation band? Why can't they trade at 1.5, 2 times if they can deliver 16, 17% ROE for the next 3-4 years? Which means that we are still talking about these stocks that can potentially double from here after doubling last year, right? So I don't think they are anywhere close to a bubble now. I don't think if they rally another 50% this calendar year, they would still be in the bubble. Just that the stories are getting better as the growth orbit becomes better.
But within PSBs, because it is a large enough pool, how do you select? Do you stick by with the leader or do you buy a basket of some?
Look, best of them, State Bank definitely leads from the front, right? And I think that the next two you can always bet upon, right? I think this market has so many different categories of investors that the options to pick stocks within PSBs or any other sector is also relevant to the style of the investor who is looking at the names, right? Someone willing to put in $1 billion State Bank is the obvious choice. Someone willing to put 100 crore, you have another second tier, third tier. I won't say second tier, third tier, but the smaller size, right? For retail investors, you can see that the volumes in some of the even smallish PSU banks are, because ultimately all of them are benefiting from the same story. Someone is delivering better than the other. Somewhere the valuation is cheaper than the other. So your core portfolio should have the best, the largest, right? But the market is a combination of all kind of stocks. So I think as a theme, if you like something, you can keep trading in between some and hold core as some.
Sure. So defense, there's PSBs, what else? Where is it that you find there's still value on the table?
I think as a theme, Aisha, we have been very positive on this whole travel and tourism as a space, right? This is again a sector which is just coming up in this country after COVID, right? I would say the last 18 months was the period when this sector started showing its way of leadership on the consumption side. You look at hotels, you look at aviation, you look at travel accessories, right? As the per capita consumption, travel, office travel, leisure travel, entertainment grows, right? There is a huge business opportunity for them. The other thing is, because of the COVID, the capacities have been constrained. If you guys would have traveled anywhere in this whole holiday period, I don't think, just look at
the crowds.
Just look at the, today hosting an event in India is expensive than hosting an event
outside India.
Right? And still you don't get vacancies, right? I think this is a theme here to stay. One is the earnings growth, and second is when these companies generate a lot of cash flow, the balance sheet becomes very solid. From a debt-ridden balance sheet, these companies are going to become cash-rich balance sheet. So ride through this cycle, and I think over the next 2 years, you are going to see many new listings, many new opportunities in this travel and tourism. That is how big sectors typically get developed, right? Today you have 4 or 5 hotels listed, I think in the next 2 years, you may have dozen IPOs of the hotel companies coming up, right? So I think this is one theme besides financials, besides consumption, select consumption, besides industrials. But I think this travel tourism looks like a very powerful theme in the making for us.
And what's driving the optimism in consumption, even select consumption that you're talking about? Are not the worries of inflation, rural slowdown likely to be deterrents?
So I think the consumption basket is essentially driven by what is it that you were not spending on, which you are spending now because of the income level increase, right? What you have been consuming on a regular basis, right? You may not increase your wallet share there, but what you have not been consuming, and because of the general, like for example, where do you classify real estate, right? If you look at the amount of real estate optimism that has come in the last 2 years, it is the wealth impact which is happening partly because of the economic growth.
Okay, and now let's move on. And because slow stocks are going to be in focus today on the back of their quarterly updates, a lot of them come in overnight as well, from FMCG major Dabur to some of the banking names. Let's go across to Sharad, who's standing by to give us those details of which stocks are going to be in focus on the back of their Q3 update. Sharad, good morning.
Well, yes, in focus we are having L&T Finance. Over there, the Q3 numbers have been strong, and the retail disbursements as well as the loan book both have gone up by more than 25% on a year-on-year basis. So largely good set of operational update coming when it comes to L&T Finance. Now Dabur also is in focus. Largely inline set of numbers coming in, what was expected, and they are expecting that the consolidated revenue is expected to come in between mid to high single-digit growth in the third quarter of FY24. Interestingly, they have stated that the rural growth is still lagging when it comes to the comparison with the urban markets, but there are some early signs of revival in the consumption which are visible, especially when it comes to the volume-led growth. Apart from this, also Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, good set of operational numbers coming in when you look at the loan portfolio and the deposits, both of them going up between 18 to 30 odd %. But for ESAF Small Finance Bank, the numbers have been mixed, and because of this, because the deposits in advance have been on the good side, the performance has been strong, but the asset quality that has actually kind of degraded, and GNPA and NPA numbers on a sequential basis have come on a higher numbers. Also Sobha, very strong set of operational numbers, and it has achieved its highest ever quarterly revenue when it comes to the sales, and the value growth has been roughly 37% on a year-on-year basis. And last bank which would be in focus for the operational part would be JK Bank, largely inline set of numbers coming in with deposits and gross advances growing up between 9 to 14% on a year-on-year basis.
Okay, thanks Sharad for all of those details. We'll keep an eye on all of those counters in trade today, but on to some more news and updates. Winter chill continues in North India. Delhi experiences severe cold day conditions, while dense to very dense fog conditions are likely to persist in Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Uttar Pradesh, as well as East Rajasthan. And tickets are also set to get costlier for Mumbai cinema goers, as Mumbai's civic body is mulling over the decision to increase taxes on cinema halls.
And Maharashtra government has appointed 1988 batch IPS officer Rashmi Shukla as the state DGP. She becomes the first woman to hold the top police post in the state. And a massive fire actually broke out in a motorcycle showroom in Gujarat's Aravali district on Thursday. Thick smoke was seen billowing out of the showroom, triggering panic among people. The reason for the fire is yet to be ascertained.
Well, with this, it's curtains down on this edition of Market Cafe. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Vinny Motiwala, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. The market takes the action forward.